Welcome to the first instalment of Adventures of an Amateur Astronomer.
So this is the field where we're going to come this evening. I've just come tonight to check that the path is actually flat enough to put a telescope on, and luckily I think it is. As you can see, we're at the top of a hill looking down, which means we'll be able to see Jupiter from pretty much as soon as it rises, which is good because it means I can have less of a late night. I wasn't very tired, but it's beautiful. Fingers crossed the sky will clear up. It's meant to clear at about 9, but knowing British weather, not too sure. I'm really excited for this, as last week we came up here but I could only bring my binoculars, and you're meant to be able to see Jupiter's moons through binoculars, but I couldn't. So maybe this time I'll have more luck with my telescope. Well, fingers crossed, more luck than when I woke up at 4 AM to look at Jupiter, which didn't go very well. Unfortunately, we won't get the stunning views of the moon, Jupiter and Saturn this week, as the moon's rising much later now. But Jupiter and Saturn should rise over there at about 10 PM. What's lovely about this hill is that not only is it great for stargazing, looking east, but I also have loads of memories here, as it was very good for sledging back in the day. Thankfully, the sky has very much cleared up, apart from a few cheeky cirrus clouds, so that means I'm about to go stargazing.
So the first thing to do was to dismantle my telescope so we could easily carry it up the hill, and then of course I had to make a cup of tea. Tea made, it was now time to get changed into some comfy, warm stargazing clothes, and of course some fluffy socks.
I am now armed with my camera, the telescope, and a cup of tea. Still pretty light over there, but luckily we're going to be looking this way. And you can already see some stars. Oh, you can't really see it on here. We are now at the stargazing site. Wish us luck. We are here, back here, and we are setting up. And there's Jupiter. And just by the telephone tower is Saturn, but my phone won't pick it up. We've now set the telescope back up, and we're going to align it using probably Jupiter, Vega up there, and Arcturus over there.
So here I'm using the finder scope, and I'm trying to align the red laser up with Jupiter.
So far we have not had much luck. Like when I was getting up at 4 AM to try and see Jupiter, I can see it through the finder scope, but not through the main bit of the telescope. But seeing as it's not 4 AM, I'm a bit more awake, and I have Dad's help, so hopefully we'll be able to see it. Bum 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 bum.
Yeah, it looks like it can overtake Jupiter at some point.
What?
It's risen a lot more than Jupiter.
That's probably just because it looks like it, because it was close to the horizon to start off with. We're trying to track to this star, which is Arcturus, because we couldn't find Jupiter, so we are going to use the sky align function to help us. But it takes a long time, because it doesn't turn very quickly. Yay. I think that we've found it. There's Jupiter. You can just about see its moons.
I'll shine a torch on the finder scope and see if it's got it set up right.
So
the one that's really
yeah,
close to
yeah,
Jupiter.
it's Io. We've just swapped to the closer lens and whatever, higher magnification, and you can see all the moons and Io. Wow.
In terms of distance from Jupiter, Europa is actually closer than Ganymede, but because of angles and the lack of depth perceived through a telescope, the apparent order is often different to the actual order.
Next time I'll bring a chip.
Sorry.
A few fun facts about Jupiter. Well, it orbits the Sun at 5 astronomical units, so 5 times the distance of the Earth from the Sun, at a whopping 770 million kilometres, and orbits once every 12 years. Its closest moon, Io, orbits Jupiter every 42 hours.
Our first view of Saturn. You can see it's more of an ellipse because of its rings. Can you see it?
That's so cool.
I
Because you can almost see like the actual planet and a gap and then
Yeah.
the rings.
Yeah.
Saturn is famous for its rings, but it didn't always have them, and they won't last forever. Although originally thought to be as old as Saturn itself, new data from Cassini suggests that they were actually formed within the last 100 million years, and may be gone within the next few 100 million.
So, quick update on the stargazing. We have found Jupiter, we have found Saturn, both of which were amazing, and we're now trying to find Andromeda, which is our nearest galaxy. I don't think we're going to be able to find it because the finder scope isn't working, but we're going to give it a shot.
Before we left, I had to get one last look at Jupiter and its magnificent moons, and we could actually tell that the moon that looks closest to Jupiter, Europa, had actually moved over the hour or so between observations.
It's now 3 minutes past midnight and we've just got back, and I've made myself a cup of tea in my constellation mug because I thought that was quite apt, and I've also got some chocolate. Bourneville, just gotta love it, to warm myself up and just calm myself before I go to bed because that was a very exciting evening. Yeah, I saw so many things and I'll give you a roundup tomorrow. See you. Night. It's day 2, so most of the vlogs I did were yesterday, but I just got the telescope set up in my back garden and Jupiter is just visible, Saturn isn't, but Jupiter is, and Io has moved. Like, I know moons do that, they move around, but it's so cool.
So here you can see that even in just the short time scale of a day, both Io and Europa have moved round to the other side of Jupiter, but Ganymede and Callisto, which are much further out, haven't really moved that much.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Saturn was recently visited by the Cassini orbiter, which also dropped down a probe called Huygens onto the surface of Titan, its largest moon, which is the only moon in the solar system to have a thick atmosphere. It also has lakes of methane and other hydrocarbons, so it's pretty special.
Hi guys, so it's now the day after and I had a nice long sleep because I didn't go to bed till very late after stargazing last night, and I thought I would just come on here and tell you kind of what we learned and what we saw. So our goal was to see Jupiter and Saturn because both were up, and that we did, and it was very exciting. We managed to see Jupiter and 5 of its moons. Oh, my cat's just coming to say hello. And we actually saw Io. So Io is the closest moon to Jupiter, which means it goes really fast around Jupiter, and we actually saw it move slightly from when we first saw it to when we last saw it, which was amazing. And then we saw Saturn and its rings, and we couldn't make out any moons of Saturn, but that was amazing to see its rings. Wow. We also spent some time looking at stars when we were trying to align the telescope, so we used Deneb, Arcturus, Antares and Vega because they're all really bright and fairly spread out across the sky, so it was really useful. We also saw loads of satellites going over, like there's actually loads. It's kind of sad because it makes it harder to kind of do proper observations of space, but it's cool just to see them going over. I think we saw some Starlink ones as well, because we saw maybe like 3 or 4 that all went over in the same kind of plane or axis. Not all close together, but they all looked like they were on the same orbit, so could possibly have been Starlink. And I think we might have seen some meteors as well. I definitely saw one going overhead when I was trying to look for Andromeda. And me and my dad both saw like a flash of light out of the corner of our eye at the same time up in the sky, so that could have been a meteor as well. Which is really cool, because last time I tried to go meteor hunting, I stayed out during meteor shower and didn't see any, so it's cool to actually have been able to see one, even when I wasn't actually looking for meteors. We also heard a lot of wildlife rustling around in the bushes, which was kind of off-putting. And we saw a lot of bats. I'm pretty sure a bat flew over like less than 30 centimetres away from my face, which was kind of scary, but then they've got echolocation, so I'm sure they wouldn't have actually flown into me, right? In terms of galaxies, I think I saw the Milky Way, kind of the faint band of fainter stars going overhead. It's not as prominent as kind of in like pictures you see, but I'm pretty sure I could make it out. Oh, look, there's my cat joining in. And I tried to look for Andromeda, but I couldn't actually. Hello. Sorry, getting distracted by my cat. He just walked over. Andromeda, that's what I was talking about. I tried to look for Andromeda, but I don't think we saw it. So that actually brings me on to my next point about what have we learnt. So I think if we want to do deep sky imaging, then we would, or like just looking for deep sky objects like Andromeda and other galaxies, we will need to set up the alignment on the telescope, which does it automatically and tracks it across. But it's a real pain to set up. We tried to set it up multiple times, but the first time for some reason it didn't work, and the second time we then found out that the reason it didn't work the first time was because our finder scope was misaligned, which is kind of important, which meant we weren't actually looking at the stars that we thought we were. But so hopefully next time I'll fix the finder scope, and then we'll be able to actually use the tracking and alignment software in the telescope. So although we found that we didn't actually need to use the tracking or alignment system for looking for the planets, we did need the sky to be completely dark for us to be able to see the planets. I'm not sure if that's just because we're very amateur stargazers and this is our first time looking for them, or perhaps it's our telescope, we're not really sure, but that's what we found personally. But that's okay, because it gave us a chance to have a look around the sky and let our eyes adjust. Another thing I decided is that I definitely need to buy an adapter to attach my camera to the telescope, because as you can probably tell from the photos that I showed you earlier, they're not very good. You can make them out, and I basically, whenever I've been using my telescope and I want to take pictures, I've just been holding my phone up to the eyepiece on video, and then later on I go through and screenshot, which works fine, but it would be better to use my actual camera. But obviously to do that I have to get an adapter, and I've been putting it off because it's not that expensive, but it is still money. But I think I've decided I definitely want to buy it now. On that same note, although I've seen countless pictures of the planets, seeing them with my own eyes through my own telescope after setting it all up was a completely different experience, and it was amazing. It was beautiful, and it was so cool to actually see the planets with my own eyes.
Thank you for staying right to the end. So just one last thing. I'm just buying some filters so that I can actually see the planets in greater detail, and then some adapters so that I can take some really good pictures, better pictures hopefully. So yeah, that will be coming soon. To see the photos that I took and more like them, check out my nature and astrophotography Instagram. And if you want to see exactly how the moons have changed over the different observations, check out my recent blog post, which I'll link down below, or you can find it under the Stargazing tab on my website. So make sure to check that out, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, questions or suggestions for videos, leave a comment below and see you next week.